That first event you attended with your uncle?
Yeah, I was a teenager at the time, but I remember too watching it, looking at it, and looking over my shoulder and my uncle like, "This is it. We've been doing this our whole life. Like we know how to do this. Like just like that, we could be up there."
Yeah.
I was saying that, and not knowing, literally, not everything was known to me, like why everything came about the way it did. It was just something that became so natural.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
So you felt like maybe you were born with it?
I do feel that, but the reason I feel that is because no matter, even right now, anytime I hear like something like I don't even need to listen even to just the congas music, but even they say that the skeleton of Cuban music is clave, and the clave is ba 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 ba, and all Cuban music, it doesn't matter how wide range and all the different types, son, mambo, salsa, it all has that skeleton, that following. Everything will follow through that particular sound. And that's why the congas have all those different beats around the clave. And that's what makes us move.
So you feel like when you hear that music, you can feel it in your bones?
Because my grandfather said that the guaguancó is one of the conga rhythmics sounds that comes out through that the clave. But it's not just the playing of it, the music itself. The guaguancó is also the dance of guaguancó. And guaguancó is, my grandfather would tell me that is the essence of you. It is what's inside you that moves you, that motions you to move that way. That's what he would say. Though later on I started finding out more about it.
Lineage and connection to Nigeria, and basically, I don't really understand.
Yoruba is one of the primary languages, I think, for Nigeria. But also too, Yoruba. The reason why Yoruba even came out when we were speaking was because we were talking about the different dances that had to do with the African saints. You know, that has to do a lot with that particular region in Africa.
But when you do it in this kind of in a circle format, do you think that has anything to do with some kind of a maybe historical ritual? Because if you think about it, every time I've seen some kind of like a tribal dance, for example, it seems like they're going in circles quite a bit, right? And I noticed that circles, the shape of the circle has a lot to do with, a lot of people's belief systems and what it represents. It's like kind of a symbol. And you notice that people usually gather around and get in a circle to tell a story. They gather around, get in a circle to do a dance, or to pray to the gods, somehow, different things like that, to gather up and meet. And they, hold hands. And there's different, images of this. But do you think maybe it has something to do with that, possibly?
I think as a whole, yes. Even at times, even at parties or different dance places, they'll just do this sign like this, and what that means is it goes like rueda. Rueda means like circle, so they're just going like that because they were like, hey, everybody get ready, we're gonna do a rueda. And that's what they call everybody all together. But I think a lot of it too has to do with the culture. I think we Cuban people are very inviting. We're inviting everybody. We're inviting them to come and talk to us like that too.
Kind of like maybe like a test of brotherhood, or maybe some kind of like when you.
I think it's a connection. I think that once people start getting that in that ambiance, they start connecting.
Yeah, you have your own language kind of that you built. I kind of feel like we have that sometimes too. You have a lot of inside jokes and symbols that no one can understand because of the experiences and the connection we built over time.
And then that's the connection through dance. And there's a lot of everything. Like, wow, it's so crazy the way you said it, because everything is a connection. It's a connection from me and other people. It's a connection, a spiritual connection for certain people. a spiritual connection because everything that we know within a lot of the Cuban culture is that we dance for ritual too, or we have danced for a ritual too. Worship through dance. It's a connection mentally because it's what it does to you. I mean, it changes your thought process. I mean, when people talk about being stressed out or, you know, what you need to do to loosen that up, loosen yourself up.
Mm-hmm.
Dance itself, like it gets that connection, that reconnection
mm-hmm.
to your mental state. It's a connection in every sense of the way.
Comes to this style of dance, and there's a lot of the pelvic thrusting. What, as far as you know, what does that represent, and why does it exist, and why is it a part of the way you dance?
I think, well, in Huahuancó, which is one of the things that we're talking about, is translated in Latin to vacunao. Vacunao means like injection. It's kind of like saying beef injection, but
yeah.
It's interesting because it's sort of like the peacocking thing,
right.
But it says like it's a man and a woman are dancing. They're dancing Huahuancó, and they're motioning, kind of like my grandfather said, like the essence of you. They're motioning. You're peacocking yourself to see who you are, what you are, and the other person could tell who you are through your dance. And it's called vacunao because you are enticing each other. You're in,
mm-hmm.
as a man, you're enticing a woman, meaning you're getting her hot in candela. And
mm-hmm.
but the interesting thing is you never actually get to the vacuna. You know, the whole dance has just to do with just heating things up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of that hip thrusting thing that we're talking about has to do with that. Because, I mean, essentially, I think that even not just salsa or huahuancó or bata, which is like a lot of the Cuban rhythms,
mm-hmm.
Everything, you know, from hip hop to even some rock, or different types of, you know, Irish descent cultures with the horns and everything, and there is some motion with the hips
right.
and everything.
I think it has a lot to do with, like what you're saying, kind of like the peacock thing, or I don't know if you heard of the birds of paradise, but there's these birds that exist in like the Amazon jungles or something. I don't know, but they're very unique because they usually put on a dance, and they have a lot of colors that are hidden usually, but they show them in these dances when they're courting the other birds. So it's kind of like, you know, you're just inviting, you know, the opposite sex to come into your world, in your circle,
Connect.
and to make that connection. Yeah, essentially, and basically showing them that you have, you know, the means of producing a family potentially, but basically that you're showing them what you're capable of doing, mm-hmm. and getting them, you know, like you say, heated up a little bit, and kind of showing them it's kind of like a sex appeal, you know? I mean, it's a way of getting someone's attention. It's funny because we do it, and it's a primal instinct, I think, because you see these birds do it. Animals do it all the time, and we do it as human beings as well, even when we're not even realizing it. It's pretty interesting. So,
as far as dancing and Afro-Cuban movements, different rhythms, I didn't know about. I didn't know where they derived from or how we even came about doing all that. Like I said earlier, we just did it. We just did it. But the reason why we worship through dance was so important in the past. So, you know, what Cuba was before was an area in which a lot of the Africans were shipped, and that is where they had the different selling points for them, you know,
right.
Where they had a bidding war over them, and that's the reason why, even at this point in time, it said that Cuba has no longer any pure indigenous blood from Cuba. That everything that there is in Cuba is Spanish and African blood.
Mm-hmm. And you're talking about like a lot of the slavery that went along with that process.
Right. And with that, as you know, they try to control the slaves as much as they could, even including choosing their religion, choosing what they would be. As you know, Catholicism was the biggest thing to come into the country of Cuba from the Spaniards, and they were trying to convert every single African.
Yeah.
And to the point where they would tell them if they saw them, they would kill them if they saw them worshiping any of their African rituals or doing anything like that. So, in essence, what they did, Santeria is a mix of the African culture with the Catholic culture. And what they did is all the different saints that have to do with Catholicism are put up with a different name within the African religion.
Yeah.
But they kind of did like a mix and match thing, I guess, and they just put them together, as far as I know. And for give you an example, one saint, his name is Chango, and the saint in Catholicism that one is linked up to is called Santa Barbara, and it's said that Chango is the joyous saint, and he's about moving around and very charismatic guy who's roaming around, dancing everywhere, being free and helping everybody understand that ambiance.